an underlying stock. So basically, if you guys have a stock in mind, and I just wanted to tell you guys few things like our conviction. I mean, so if we think, we need to know the direction. So if we know that, if you don't know the direction, and if you play anything, including, I mean, basic calls or any option strategy, it will not work. Okay, we need to know, or we need to take a stance on, okay, this stock is going to go up or stay sidelines, or it is going to go down. Okay, if our initial thought of, okay, where the stock is going is wrong, none of these will work. Okay, so I hope, I mean, so that nobody can help anywhere. So we need to have a uh, bias on the stock, like, okay, that stock is going to go up, down, or sideways. So based on those three options, we can pick any of these option strategies, and it's all based on risk tolerance, buying power, for profit potential, and return on capital. So these are basic things I'm going to use, like buying power. You guys might know what is a buying power is, and you can stop me anytime and ask any question if you don't know some of the words I'm using. So anyway, so if you have a stock which you think it is going to go up, you need to basically, I mean, we take a call option. So, and Suresh explained it very well, but I just don't want to give an example of, okay, give an example of, like, okay, you have an watch, or something like that. I mean, I don't want to go there. So if you guys, can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it, boss.
Yeah. So any underlying option, I mean, as I said, like, if you think Apple is going to go up, so we take calls. Okay, if you think Apple goes down, and then we take puts, right? Those are um, straight options. But each option has, and Suresh, you can correct me, or you can add anything whenever you think, like, you can add more value to this. So I'm still bringing up my WhatsApp. As soon as I open this Zoom, my system resources are going down, so I can't even open web WhatsApp. So anyway, so we need to, in options, you need to know basic geeks, and without geeks, I think whatever you do is going to be more risky. So you don't need to know in detail uh, functionality of these are called geeks, whatever I'm sharing. So uh, so we need to know what is delta, what is theta at the least. Gamma, vega also we need to know, but at least we should know what is delta and theta. So delta, as I mentioned here, I took the source from YouTube and Google. So delta means, like, suppose if we have a underlying stock, if it moves $1, how much, if the delta is 50, how much the option price is going to move. And again, I might keep going back and forth. So one option is equivalent to 100 stocks in US standards, right? In different countries, it's different, but in US, one option is equivalent to 100 stocks. So if we buy one call option of Apple or whatever stock, and if the delta of that option, and there are different things. One is strike and one is expiry. We need to know the timing. Okay, we think Apple goes up, but by when, where it will move. I mean, we need to know those things. So expiry is a term. I mean, is a timeline which you think Apple is going to go up. Look, suppose I don't remember the numbers right now, but suppose Apple is at currently 350, and we think Apple is going to go 400. We need to know. We need to define, or we need to pick some strikes uh, and expiry. So by which time it is going to go up or down. So I'm going to share one tasty trade platform, and I'll show you how these things look. And you guys can stop me anytime to ask any questions if I'm jumping too fast.
Hey, boss, this is Suresh. Do you mind if I add 2 minutes of content?
Sure, anytime, Suresh.
Okay. So just to add on the Greeks, the 4 things that Bose is showing on the screen. So think about it this way, guys. So Vega, he talked about loss or gain due to volatility. So let's say Apple today is at $300 and you buy an ATM call for $10. Let's say that was the price today. Now tomorrow, let's say volatility increases. What will happen, and let's say Apple stays exactly at the same price, $300, but volatility increased. Tomorrow, what will happen? The cost of that option would automatically become more than what it was today. So let's say tomorrow volatility increases 10%, and magically your option became $11 instead of 10, even though Apple stays at exactly the same price. So that's what Vega means. If you want to go back to the other screen, Bose, for a moment, where you had the Greeks.
Yes, 1 second.
Yeah. So Vega,
Yeah, I moved it.
Yeah, Vega is a number. On a day-to-day, you can't really do much with it. The thing to remember is that for no change in Apple, it is possible that the value of your option will go up, go down, just because volatility changed. So that's the thing to remember. Now on Theta. So let's say, same example, you bought Apple's option for $10 today. The expiry date is 1 month from today, and you paid $10. Let's say Apple does not move at all. It stays exactly at $300 for the entire month. Now it is the last day, it's the expiry day. What do you think would be the price of that $300 call option?
Zero.
Zero. So today, when you bought that call option, you paid $10, but a month later, the cost or the value of that option is $0. So, and Apple stayed exactly at the same price. And yet the value went down from $10 to $0. So there is a decrease in the value every day. Every day that passes, your option value is decreasing, even if everything else remains constant. Apple remains at 300, volatility remains exactly the same, but still your option goes down to zero and you lost $10. That is known as theta. Okay? And I think Bose already explained to you that delta is basically how much does the option price change if everything else is constant, only the stock is moving. So if you buy an option which has more delta, and let's say Apple moves, your option price will move more. If you buy something with less delta, everything is constant, only Apple price changes, your option price will change less. So that's what these Greeks are on a very high level. Back to you, boss.
Yes, and basically these things are you'll understand more as you start using these options, either it in paper trading or real money. So basically, if you look at this screenshot where it says like these are 4 things we can do.
Can you maximize?
One is, sorry.
Can you maximize the window? I don't think we can see the entire picture. Yeah, better.
Yeah, there is some delay in that, so it might be on my end. Can you guys see this, like buy call and sell call
we can
and
see
buy
it.
put this?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, cool. So basically we can buy a call, we can buy a put. Okay, and don't get, I mean, any new guys to options, don't confuse when we say sell call and sell put, but they are also very much important to understand. Okay, so if you buy a call, we want the underlying to go up here. Okay, so the price expected to rise, so that's when we buy a call. And when we buy a put, it basically we expect the price to fall, right? So and when we sell a call, it's, even if the price didn't move any direction, we still make money, or if it goes down, we make money. The same way to sell put. Okay, if we think the price is not going to move or don't go too much down, then we can sell puts. So these are the four basic things in normal, I mean, in normal options. When I say normal option, it's not a spread, it's not combination. And in coming back to spread is nothing but more than one option leg. So when I say leg, it means like buying a call, selling a call. If we combine both of them, it's kind of a spread. So we can play with different legs, I mean different combinations of these buy call, buy put, I mean buy call, sell call, and all these different combinations we can play differently. I mean, and when we join more than one option leg, it is going to be a spread. Basically, that's I just wanted to show you it at high level. And guys, if you have any basic questions, don't think it's a silly question. If you are new to options, ask any questions. There are a lot of people who can explain. Suresh is he's a great teacher. I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but I might not be able to explain properly, but there are a lot of people who can explain. So feel free to ask. Don't think that that is a silly question or something. There is no silly question here. So yeah. And coming back.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Sudhakar. At what point do we run into the risk of forced to buy the stocks?
Whenever going back to this, so whenever we buy anything, either it is a buy call or buy put, there is no risk. The maximum risk is what we pay. Okay, so suppose you bought a call for $300, and the maximum risk is $300. You don't lose anything other than $300. So I'll come to the credit spreads and debit spreads, but debit spread is always buying a call. Buying a call or buying a put is a debit spread. So we pay upfront, saying that the stock is going to move up or move down. Okay, then there is no risk. When I say no risk, the risk is limited. You know that whatever you paid, you will lose. So can you come again with your question on?
Yeah, so let me rephrase this way, right? Normally when the expiry date comes, right? If
Yes.
it's in the money, I believe we are forced to buy it, right? Or is that just a false understanding?
Sudhakar, to answer
when you buy,
let me answer that question to Sudhakar. So whatever you see on the sell side, either you sell a call or sell a put, and if your option comes to the in the money, that means that it reached the strike, then there is a chance that you will need to acquire that stock. So as an example for Apple, you said, I will buy the stock when it reaches the 3,300. So what you do is you sell the put at 300 and keep some premium, say $1, right? Now, when it reaches the stock, Apple stock falls below 300, that means you need to acquire the stock at $300.
So the risk, whatever you ask, Sudhakar, so you will be, when you sell anything, then you will get risk of getting assigned or risk of covering. I mean, risk you need to, the risk is there when in the money only when you are selling. Okay, when you buy something and when you're in the money, you are like in lot of profit and you can just close that option. But you are forced to do something only when you sell. At least like as Sampath mentioned. So suppose you have a stock of $30 and you don't want to buy. You don't want to buy for $30. So what you do is like, okay, I'm comfortable to buy that stock if it is $20 at $20. So you sell a put, saying that okay, sell put 20 strike, January expiry or whatever it is. So you pick a strike and pick a expiry and sell put. So you get a credit. So you pick the 20 strike and you got $5 credit. So what if the stock comes below $20? Suppose stock went to $15. You have to take that. You will get. I mean, you need to own that stock. They will exercise it, and you need to buy the stock for $20, even though the stock is available in market for $15. Because you sold a put, you need to take options for $15. I mean $20, but you already got a credit of $5. So your price for that stock is 15. Okay, so I mean you don't get into the risk of assignment as long as you just buy the stocks, buy the options.
Got it. Thanks.
And once we move, you might it might get cleared. Okay.
Boss,
Going back, so
hey, boss, Silesh here. So
Yeah.
I think
Silesh,
simply put,
Silesh, hang on. Okay, let him finish. Okay, I typed the answer on the question whoever has asked buyer versus seller. Okay, please review and ask your questions there. In the meanwhile, Silesh, you can ask the question after boss completes. Go ahead, boss. Sorry.
yeah, I mean no problem. Silesh, you can go ahead and ask the question. I lost
so
my
I thought
thought.
I read the answer in the chat. So buying is an option, whereas selling is a promise, right? So the seller is promising. So no matter what, he has to sell. Whereas the buying is you as the buyer have the option to either say, okay, I'll take them or
It's
I'll
not,
not take them.
yeah. It's based on obligation and. Can you guys go on mute? I mean, I can hear myself once you are asking questions. So basically, it's a right or obligation. So right to execute or obligation. I mean, so when I buy a call, I am not. I can execute it or I can exercise it. But when I sell it, it's not in my control. Basically, it's on the other side control. So I don't know what Srini mentioned there, but yes. So it's based on whenever we sell, we don't have the right to execute. The other guys has it. We have to we are in obligation to take it when the other side of the person. So I just want you guys to visualize this like when you are buying something, that means the other side of the transaction, somebody is selling. Okay, when you buy a call, that means somebody is selling it. Okay, so the guy who is selling it can decide when to execute it.
Okay.
So you don't have any control on it. Okay,
Hey,
but you have to think in a go ahead.
Okay, so let's say the price of the stock is at 30 and you sold a put for 20. That means it's a $10 difference, and then you get
Yes.
the $10, assuming that $10 is coming to you. Okay, you get $10
Credit.
as a credit.
Yes.
Okay, now the
Yeah.
price of the stock went down to 25. So the seller, the person who has committed to give it to you, has not done anything, but the price of the stock has gone down to 25. That means your $10. Let's say I want to close it at this time. So the price will be $5 or price will be.
So this is what whenever I mean you need to think in a practical scenario like, okay, the same example we can take. So the current stock is at $30, and you sold a put of $20. Okay, so you are ready to own the stock at $20. Even the stock goes to zero, you are promising somebody that okay, you will buy the stock for $20. Okay,
right.
that's why you are getting a credit of $10 or whatever. You don't get $10, but for example sake, let's say
Whatever,
you
whatever.
take $10. Yeah. So you already took $10. So your impact price is going to be, so if you get assigned, you already got $10 credit and the strike is 20. You are going to get assigned of each stock at $20 per share. Okay. So 20 minus 10. So your impacted price. So your average price of stock if you get assigned is $10. Okay. So, and you are right. So if the stock comes down to 25, then you can't, I mean, so basically you need to pay more to close it. If you want to take any action, if the stock goes up, suppose if the stock you sold a put at 20 and the stock goes to $35, then the chance of it coming down to 20 is reduced, right? So the price, whatever you got, the $10 credit, whatever you got, will go down to $8 or $7 or $6. Then you can buy back. So when you buy back, so you took a credit of $10, and when you buy back at $6 or $7, that means you got a profit of $3, which is $300. Okay. But if you sell put, and if the stock keeps going down towards your strike, your credit is going to increase. I mean, you whatever credit you took, the $10 is going to be $12, $13, $14, something like that. It is going to keep increasing. If you want to close the transaction before the expiry, you have to pay more to close the transaction.
Oh,
you will be in paper loss.
You buy it, assuming that the price will go up.
Yes. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you look at this screen, when you sell put, what is it saying? The sell put, it is saying the price is expected to stay same or rise. Okay. So you need to know, okay, I'm comfortable to own the stock at $20. Then you sell put. Or you think that stock is not going to go down and you just want to get the credit and be happy, then also you can sell put. There are two things there are two reasons you are going to sell put. Okay. If the current stock is at $30 and I don't want to buy a stock at $30, it is overvalued. I'm okay to own the stock at $20, you can sell a put. If it comes down below 20 and it gets assigned, you have to be happy. That is how you should assign. You should pick a strike and credit. Okay. If it gets assigned, you should not feel bad like, oh, I mean, why I got assigned. I mean, you have to, I mean, that's how I look at it. If you pick a strike to sell put, you should be happy to own the stock at that price.
So if you
minus credit.
You do a sell put, you need to have that much of money gets reserved.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you need to have a collateral, which is like, suppose in this example, you sold a put of $20. You need to have 20 into 100. I mean, so $2,000 you need to have. Some platforms, what they do is like they are going to reduce the credit what you are going to give. So suppose Robinhood, I know a lot of people hate it, but I'm just giving an example. So for that $20 strike, if you are getting $10 credit, you have to have only $1,000 collateral. And you guys can ask me like how that 1,000 came. I'm just thinking that it's you guys know it. So 20 is the strike price. 20 into 100, which is like 2,000, should be the collateral. But you are already getting $10 credit, which is $1,000. So they are taking the 2,000 is collateral minus 1,000 already credit, which is $1,000. Only they are going to block $1,000 in your portfolio, in your account, basically. So yes, for selling puts, you need to have collateral.
Was adding to that, it depends also on if you have a margin or not. Okay.
That's right. That's right. So a lot of people use margin. Even though I have margin, I put some restrictions myself. that I'm not going to take any margin, and that's up to individuals. So we have Srini Vakarnam and lot of our group people, they use margin. I mean, so for example, if there is a stock of $200 and if you are selling put at 150, you don't have to have 150 into 100, that much amount, like $15,000 in your account. Okay, if you have a margin, there is some margin calculations the companies do based on your account size. I don't know, Suresh or somebody can explain, but they don't really block 15K on your account if you have a margin account. It's 20% or 30%.
Yeah, so I can add here, boss. Typically it is 20%. So let's say, going back to our Apple, $300 stock price. You sold a put for 300 strike.
Yes.
So 300 times 100 times 0.2. That'll be $6,000, right? 300
Yes.
times 100 would be 30,000, and 20%
Into
of
2, yeah.
30,000 is 6,000.
Yes.
Broker will require, if you have margin, broker will require you to have only $6,000. So it is very attractive. You'll say, hey, I've got $6,000. Let me go ahead and sell this put. And it's very, very enticing. And you have seen my posts in the group. I myself have lost a lot of money doing that. That is why I would say, even if your broker allows it, you are better off not doing it than doing it. Because just think, remember I posted yesterday that BA closed at 170.01 yesterday.
Yes.
Why I was watching BA? Because even though I preach this, so when BA was at 200, a week or so ago, that time, based on my calculation, I said that by 26th, it will not go below 170. I was almost right. But yesterday, if BA would have closed below 170, and if I had not bought those puts back, I got only $2 for selling the BA put. I actually did a spread, what Bose will talk about later, but just to give you an idea how catastrophic it can be. So if I hadn't, let's say BA closed yesterday at 169.99, 1 cent less. And let's say I was busy in some meeting. This morning, I would have bought 100 shares of BA at 170. That means I need to have at least $17,000. Otherwise, I'm borrowing money from my broker and I'm paying interest. That's one problem. So that $2 that I got, that can go away in interest very, very quickly. Number two, we don't know how the market opens up on Monday morning. Corona cases are already 45,000 yesterday. Who knows? BA opens at 160 on Monday morning. Now I'm sitting at $10 times 100, $1,000 loss against a potential $200 gain. So I was very happy that BA closed at 170.01, and I'm going to, at least for next few months, forget about selling puts, because the market seems. So anyway, that's just my. So the point for you guys is, it will sound very attractive, especially for those who are with the margin account. But guys, I'm telling you, you can wipe your account to zero in no time. It will take just 1 or 2 days, and whatever amount you start with, I guarantee you, in this kind of market, you will hit zero very quickly. And in the worst case, it can be even worse than that. So back to you,
Suresh or Bose, one question right related to that, the risk of these trading on margin. The brokerage can force sell any other stocks that you have in your brokerage account, right? It's not just this one to cover.
Absolutely.
He will sell anything. They can sell. I think the problem with this is, like I always tell my friends, like we say like accept button, we don't read those things, right? Whenever we accept, either it is in agree terms and conditions, that kind of. So whenever we open any account, they have these conditions already, which we already accepted. Like they can sell anything, like they can so you sold a put of or you sold a call or whatever it is you sold, and you need to cover, and the brokerage can sell any stock in your account. He can try to get his money however he can. I mean, like he can sell anything in your account, and still if you own, then they'll be behind you basically. So, and you can't say like, how can you sell? I mean, we can't do anything with that. And I don't have any experience with it personally, but that's why I always stay away from margin, because I just want to have a limited risk which I can manage, or which I'm okay to lose, but I don't want to go with this. So even what Suresh mentioned is like, so the margin, if you have margin and if you have $6,000 and if you are allowed to place the trade, as long as the trade goes in your way, you are fine. But if not, then it's not 6,000. It is whatever whatever we calculated before, like the 15,000 or whatever it is. You need to have that money to own that stock for that price.
So I have a hypothetical question for Bose or Suresh or the experts here, right? Usually, when there is a buyer, there is always a seller, or vice versa. There is always two parties to a transaction. Neither of the party needs to own a stock to be to participate in these option trades. Let's say hypothetically there is no stock on the market being traded on that day. What happens to that option?
So that is when the market makers come into play, and it is a part of the brokerage company to get you the stock for you. So once brokerage company allows you to sell it, it becomes their obligation to get you the stock. And how do they achieve it? They achieve it via dealing with the market makers.
Okay, thank you.
And each stock, so that's how it is. There are a couple of companies, and there are many companies as of now, and each company is assigned a couple of stocks to be the market makers for them. So when they are made a market maker, their only job is to make that there is liquidity in the market and volatility in the market available. So you might say, hey, some options are there which you don't think are generally going to be, somebody is trying to sell you, but they get sold or you get to buy them. That is because the market makers have some calculations over there and say, I'll give you an example. Let's say Apple 1,000 stock option is present somewhere outside in another 2 weeks. Let somebody wants to buy that. Nobody generally sells it unless the market makers come into place and say that this is the Black-Scholes algorithm's basic calculation. If the price comes below this and somebody is trying to pay it, I'll give it to you. So those type of things come in. That is the work they will do. And on the selling puts part of it, there is one more thing that is called, where do you deal with this? Dividends. And when you have you are sold a put, there is a scope that you get as if there is a dividend in that time frame, there is a chance that you will be asked to give the dividend back, pay the dividend back. So I'm not sure whether it is selling a put or selling a call, but there is a
call actually. Yeah. So yeah, you are right. So we have whenever we sell call or puts, we have these dividend risks, and there are some other risks which we sometimes ignore. Mohan in our group and I sometimes got burned on couple of options. So we go with spreads, and when we are in the money, we get mostly impacted. And I'm not sure, even we are not in the money, there are people told in so many articles that we have to pay the complete dividend for 100 stocks. So even our spread is like $30 or like $100, whatever it is, we have to pay the dividend out. I mean, we will get charged for that dividend for 100 stocks, and we need to pay it. I mean, they will just deduct it from your account. So yeah, there are dividend risks, and there are some other risks which I might cover in next session. But right, I mean, so I just wanted to, I don't know where we stopped, but yeah, Sridhar, is your question answered? I mean, can we move to
Yes,
the
please move on.
to-
That was thanks, Mani, and was that definitely answered. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add that question answer, typically when we do, option trading, yeah, the liquidity is very, very important. That being said, most of the seasoned traders, what they do is they do options only on the top 10, 20 most tradable stocks. Like example, SPY, Apple, Facebook. All these are, given assurance of any second trade. So you will never see a microsecond not having these stocks trading. So, it is most advisable that you pick a stock, make sure that it trades every day. I mean, don't pick a stock which, barely trades in a day and do the options on it, because you may end up having no movement on the options, which may, like Suresh said, the value of that option is going to disappear as times goes by, and when you are not trading in the market, your option is going to disappear. So that's a risk of buying or selling any options for non-tradable stocks. So keep that, the list, which stocks are the most traded stocks that I should be able to do some options, whether you buy or sell, doesn't matter. Make sure that there is a volume every day on that stock.
Yeah. So what basically Sampath is saying, if you bought a call or a put, when you think you are in profit, and when you are trying to sell, there should be somebody to buy it, right? So if you pick a option where there are no buyers or no sellers, there is no volume, in the sense like there are no buyers or sellers in that stock. But for even the stock is there, but suppose you pick a stock with a out of the money expiry or long term some expiry where there is no volume, then even though the stock moves up, and when you see that profit is going to go up, when you try to place an order, you might have seen this so many times. So you bought a option for $200 and it is showing like $400. When you place a trade to sell at 400, it will show like 350. And when you reduce your profit limit order to 350 to 300, and again it will show to 250. So because there are no volume, I mean, there should be people who are trading that stock or that option or that particular strike and expiry. Otherwise, you can't sell it. I mean, the liquidity is important. And yes, SPY, and there are a lot of stocks which you need to pick. So coming back to this, so basically you got the basic understanding of calls and puts, right? I mean, calls and puts, why we buy it and why we sell it. So coming back to, there are different types of spreads. So you can buy a call. So let me explain. So there is, let me show this Tasty Trade platform. So suppose you have Amazon stock, okay, Amazon stock, and you wanted to buy a call. You want to buy a call, strike call. So this platform is a little bit. So if you want to buy a call on this Amazon, the call might be like $10,000 or maybe $5,000 or $2,000. I think it's stuck. Yeah. Anyway, so what to reduce the. Let me go back to the screenshot. So we can buy strike calls. The only problem with the strike calls is strike call or strike put is we need to pay more premium. Okay, so we need to pay more premium, and there are some accounts which are smaller size accounts comparatively, and they have buying power. So suppose there is an account of like $5,000 or $10,000 account. and if they want to buy a call, safe call, like at the money call or something like that on Amazon or Google or something, it will be like, even Tesla, it will be like $5,000 or $6,000. Okay, for one trade, even if they go out of the money, if they need to spend $2,000 on one trade out of, for an account of $10,000 or $2,000 or $5,000, I mean, it's like it's 1/10 of, or like too much of money for one trade, which is like, which we normally don't, which it's not advised to take trade more than 2 to 5% practically. I mean, sometimes I also don't follow it, but that is how we should trade. At least one single trade should be at least or maximum of 2% to 5% of your portfolio size. I mean, that is again coming, that is another topic where we position sizing, where we discuss position sizing, that we can discuss in another session. But what I wanted to say is, like, suppose you wanted to buy an at the money call, you know that Tesla is at $950, and you think it is going to go up, and you wanted to buy a 975 call, expiry July 17 or something. You need to pay minimum of like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. To reduce your cost capital, so what we can do is we can convert into a spread. Again, as I said in the beginning, you need to know the direction. You need to take a stand in the direction. Okay, so if these spreads is not going to save if your direction is wrong. It is going to just save your maximum loss. Okay, so suppose we are talking, there are three types of normal vertical spreads. I mean, there are different types of spreads. In this screen, we are talking about vertical spread, calendar spread, and diagonal spreads. And maybe if you guys don't know any of the things, please feel free to ask me. So basically what we are doing is, suppose this stock, as an example, this stock is trading at $55 here. The stock price is here, and you think the stock is going to go up. So you can buy a 50 call, which is in the money call, and then sell out of the money call. Okay, and deltas and all come into picture here, but we will go to the discussion little later. So you can just convert that into like, so whenever you buy this, suppose this stock, let me come to this example. Suppose you have a stock trading at $100, okay, and you think that the stock is going to go higher, and then instead of spending this $750, if you are buying a call in the money call at $95 strike, you need to pay $750. So $750 is not a big amount for most of the people, but every option has two things. So the stock is trading at 100. This 95 call should be at least $500, because for every option, the premium consists of two values, one extrinsic and two intrinsic. So extrinsic value is like the difference between the strikes. So how well in the money you are. So the stock is at $100 and you are buying a call at $95. And a lot of people ask me this question, like, why are we playing in the money? I mean, people buy the calls or play the call spreads like 105, 110, 100, 110, 100, 105, something like that. But in the money here helps because the delta for 95 call is going to be too good, like 70 or 50 or something like that. So it is going to help move your option much faster rate than out of the money. But coming back to this, so the extrinsic value is 2.5 here, because we are $5 in the money. The value, the difference is here 100 minus 95 is 5, which is intrinsic, and the extra, the $2.5 here is extrinsic. That means like that is a hope that the stock is going to go up, or other geeks come into play there. So we should pay, if we have money, we will pay $95 into 100 stocks, which is going to be $95,000, right? But here we don't have that much capital, so we play options for better high risk return on capital. So how I pick this sell strike is, I want to at least get the extrinsic value out of this value, this strike. So which is 750. Again, you can ask me any questions if I'm talking too much technical. So this value should be maximum $500. I mean, the worth of that should be minimum $500. Let me say. So the other 250 is it might go away if the stock just stays there. So what I do is, I at least pick a strike. If I'm doing vertical call spreads, I will try to take this $250 out of my capital. So that's why I pick a strike which gives me that much credit. Okay. So this spread contains two legs. One, buying a call of 95 and selling a call of 105. Okay. So why we do that? There are some disadvantages also, but I'll go to the next slide there. So the maximum profit is if the stock stays here. If the stock stays at 100, the break even. The break even is always the amount you paid, which is like how much we paid here, $500 we paid. The difference between the legs, 105 and 95, that is $10. $10 minus what you paid, that is the maximum profit, which is $500. So the numbers are little odd here. I mean, both are 500, but if the stock stays there, you are not going to lose anything because your break even is at $100. If the stock stays same, you are not going to lose anything. You will just keep your $500. If the stock moves little bit out of $100 towards 105, you are going to keep getting profits. The maximum profit is 500 when it goes beyond 105 by expiry. Okay, the break even price is always your buy strike plus the amount you paid. So 95 plus 500. 500 is what we paid. 95 plus 5 is what we paid. So 95 plus 5 is $100. So this is the break even. You always need to know what is the break even in strike calls. If you buy a call $100 strike and you are paying $7, so your break even is $107. So even if the stock goes to 102, 103, if you are going to keep that option until expiry, you are going to be in loss. So you need to know the break even price on any, not only the spreads but also in direct calls. So the maximum loss is again it's $500. The break even calculation is pretty simple. So the buy leg plus however much amount you paid. Okay, and the POP and ROC. If you guys use this Tasty Trade platform, it will give you the probability of profit. I mean, what are the chances that you are going to make profit out of the trade? Okay, they calculate it based on some metrics which I am not 100% sure, but the probability is dependent on the delta and theta and all those things also. So the return on capital also we should always see how much I am paying, how much I will get, how much I am risking. So which is how much we paid. So debit spreads always. So whenever you look at as like debit spread, that means we are paying some upfront and the maximum we lose is that amount. Just like how I explained, like sell calls and sell puts, they are completely risky because there is no sell puts has some limited risk because it can go maximum to 0, but sell calls has no limit. It can go to infinity, which it won't, but normally. So anyway, so you need to know how much you are paying. You are paying $500 to get $500, and what is the probability? These things you should know. So this is going to reduce your capital. Instead of going to pay 750, you are just paying 250. So sorry, 500, which is reduced. So even if you are buying a straight call here at 95, so there are two people, suppose, and one guy bought this debit call vertical spread, and also one guy just bought the 95 call. His break even is at 97.5. The guy who bought the call, break even is at 97.5 if he keeps the option until expiry. But this call vertical spread, guys, break even is at 100. So we can reduce the break even by playing these vertical spreads. But there is a catch. See, there is always a catch in these. Whenever there is a less risk, that means there is a less profit also. So if you look at it, so vertical, if somebody bought this call at 750, they paid $750, and there is unlimited profit potential. It might not be unlimited, but potential is it can go. There might be some news. The stock like the VMware and Dell news came on like two weeks back or 2 days back, right? The stock jumped like $12 or $13. If you have a spread, the maximum profit you are going to be capped. Here, if you look at it, the same spread what I showed, after the stock goes above 105, it doesn't matter. It can go to 200, it doesn't matter. The maximum you are going to get is $500. But here, the people who bought the straight calls, they would make more. So when you try to reduce your capital, when you are trying to go defensive, your profit potential is going to be reduced. But we need to know which one is comfortable for our trading style. Okay, I always prefer spreads because I can play more. I can play more number of different trades than couple of big trades. So coming back to this, any questions on normal vertical debit spread?
Boss, are you able to hear me? This is Jay Kumar.
Yeah, I can hear you, Jay.
Yeah. So the question is like how the volatility affects this premium price when you do the spread, because some days the volatility might be like 300% and other day might be like 50%. And if you bought the spread on a volatility day where it is 50% and suddenly on another day it increases to 300%, then the spread premium is going to be huge, right?
So see, when we say vertical call spreads, both sell call and buy call are on same expiry. Okay, if the volatility increases, it increases almost similar or same on both the legs. Yes, in the money will have more impact based on the delta and IV Vega, but it's not really impacting for normal vertical spreads. That's where the other spreads are coming into picture. Okay, so if the volatility, suppose you bought a call vertical spread today 95 and 105, if the IV increases tomorrow, your 95 call premium will go up, but at the same time 105 premium sell call will also premium also will go up. 95 is within the money, so it might go up a little bit more, but the volatility is going to will be almost same, little bit beneficiable, but it's not too much. So for vertical spreads, so that means like this, two different strikes on the same expiry. Okay, there is something called diagonal and calendar spreads. That is where your IV increase and those might help. Okay, so let me tell you, Jay. So if the IV is low, suppose the IV, you will know when the IV is low because you need to look at the historic IV. Historic IV, lot of platforms will show. That means like normally the stock options, at the money options or in the money options has like 30% of IV. Okay, and near the earnings it might go to 50%, 60%, 70%. Okay, before that IV jumps, if you take a calendar spread. So first let me explain these three different spreads. So vertical spreads means same expiry, two different strikes. Okay. So calendar spread means calendar spread is little different. Calendar spread is like two expiries, same strike. And when normally when a calendar strike is, we take calendar strike is like we sell this near term expiry strike and we buy little farther out same strike call. It can be done on puts also, but it is so whenever you see debit, this is a debit transaction, means like we lose maximum what we pay. Okay. So if the IV is low, suppose you are thinking like earnings are there for a stock in after two weeks, and you are seeing the IV is very low based on the historic IV, and that can be seen in other platforms. So historic IV is lower than current IV is lower than historic IV. So IV is like implied volatility. So then we take this, we kind of consider these calendar spreads. We place this when the IV is very low, as and when the IV increases, it will. So when we think that today is low, next week it might improve. Okay, and there are scenarios which will tell us like when the IV is low and when it is going to go high. Then we take this. What will happen is when the IV increases, see, these two has different expiries, September expiry and October expiry. The impact on IV increase will be more on longer term expiry than the shorter term expiry. So the price of this, so even the stock stays there, the call calendar spread is going to be increased because of high IV, because of the fact that the theta impact will be less on October than September. So the theta is going to accelerate when our strike is getting close to the current price. I mean, if we take this week's expiry, suppose 7/2 is the next week expiry, right? If we take a call or a put which is expiring on 7/2, July 2nd, the theta on that option is much more higher than if I take a call or put on July 17th or even more. So I couldn't find the screenshot where they say like options don't go, I mean, we don't follow it 100%, but they say that don't go any option which is less than 30 days, because the theta is going to act exponentially in the last 30 days. It is going to drop basically. I mean, your value is going to drop exponentially. So weekly calls are, yeah, they might give you high profit potential because of the less premium you are paying, but the theta is going to kill if the stock is going to go little bit down or even staying at that price point. So Jay, to answer your question, yeah, if you think IV is going to increase, you have to take call calendar spread. Vertical spreads doesn't have much impact on high IV. Yes, they might be little bit it will have the better value than yesterday if the IV increases, but call calendars and diagonal spreads will have more impact on high IV increase over the time. So we take this. So this is like different months, and same strike is called calendar spread. Diagonal spread. Yeah. Anybody has any question?
Boss. Yeah, boss. I have a question here. Like in a vertical spread, we are buying also. In your example, you are buying an option in the money and then selling it out of the money, right? So what happens? In this example, what happens if the strike price, the stock price goes up to say 107? The person to whom you sold your call, can he exercise it at point of time? the buyer can exercise the option.
Yeah. So yeah, he can exercise, but it doesn't matter. I mean, our profit potential is going to be same. I mean, so it's little bit complicated to explain, but I'll try to explain. Suppose the stock is at 107. Okay. Then they say like, okay, the stock, you said like you are going to buy or sell stock at 105. Give me my stock at 105. But then we have to literally, if we don't have this buy call, we have to go to market, buy each stock at 107 and give it to that person for 105 if we don't have this 95 call. But
Correct.
we have this 95 call and we have the right to sell it, right? Right to sell it. So then if this sell call can get exercised, I'm going to call my broker and I'll ask them to exercise this 95 call. So I'm going to buy, even though the stock is at 107, I'm going to get stocks worth at $95. Okay, $95 worth stock, 100 stocks, we will get it. And then we are going to pay him that 105.
That's right.
So basically what I'm trying to say is we are going to keep the maximum profit here. Just that it will take extra steps for us to call the broker and get it extended. Only if, I don't know how it works because it never happened to me where one leg is called out, because if 105 is within the in the money, 95 is well in the money, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I am here, it is like 10. If it is at 107, I am like $12 in the money.
Right.
So I will, even though they get assigned, we can call our broker and exercise this and then pay them this 105. But we are still going to keep this $1,000. I mean, $500 profit.
Got
Does
it.
that
Thank you.
answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hi boss, I have a question here. Suppose if you
Yeah.
have vertical call is, suppose we are closing the timing is suppose July 17th, and suppose if I wanted to close this vertical call completely, is there a possibility to close before that actual date of expiry?
Yes, we can close it on the same day if you see good enough profits. You open the vertical spread today at for like $500 and the stock went up and it is showing $600 or even $510, you can sell it immediately. You don't have to keep, there is no obligation that we need to keep it until expiry. We will have that expiry just to, for the safe side, if the stock goes down, if you want to average or something like that. But yes, you can close it anytime.
But how we close it actually? So you have a buy option, sell option. There are 3 or 4 different categories, right? So each individually you will exercise, or how exactly you do?
It's most platforms, they just give one button to just close it. Where what they will do is like the 95 call, what we bought, we are going to sell it. Then 105 call, what we sold it, we are going to buy it. So that the transaction is going to be the reverse transaction. So here we did like 95 buy call and 105 sell call, right?
Okay.
So the closing transaction is 95 sell call and 105 buy call.
Gotcha.
That will give us the profit.
Yeah, because okay,
But
I'm
most
using E-Trade actually, so I didn't see that option actually, so I that's why I got closed actually. So
I think if you select both the legs and right click, it will give you an option to close.
Okay.
And then they will automatically, and anybody who is using E-Trade can comment on that. But when you try to close it, they'll automatically convert those 2 legs to the reverse transaction, and they will show you the amount for how much you are going to get credit, and then that should be. Suresh, I think you use E-Trade, right?
Yeah, it's got the close option. I use the mobile so what you need to do is, do you use mobile or do you use web?
Mobile is mostly. Yeah.
Okay, so on mobile, what will happen, it'll show you, depending on how it shows in your positions.
Yeah.
If you select group positions, go under the position icon, select group legs, then it'll combine them into one spread. And then you select that and you will get the option of close, add, or, close meaning do the reverse, add means do more of the same. It'll give
Gotcha.
you. Yeah. May I add one more point, Bose, to your comment here?
Yes.
So on spreads, my suggestion would be to close both the legs. And I don't know if you guys follow, I forget the name, somebody was mentioning that, hey, I'm getting screwed, the stock went up. So I said, when you did the spread, why didn't, and he said, I did the spread and the stock went up. I said, how are you getting screwed? Because if you did the spread, there's no way you'll get screwed. So he said, no, I closed only the long leg and kept the short leg open. So don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, and don't at least leave the short leg.
Yeah.
If you want to balance something, at least buy back the short leg and keep the long leg if you want to manage it, but don't just leave the. Basically, let me show you this screen. So this is a protection. So you sold this. Suppose you sold this 105 call. 95 call is protection. The maximum loss is the difference between these things, right? So don't just close the buy call and leave this. This is going to leave you at unlimited loss scenarios. So, and also, so to manage these vertical spreads, suppose you place this stock, you place this vertical call spread, and the stock little bit moves down, and you have time at your end. Like you still have time for the trade to turn around, and if you think you are still right in the direction. So if the stock moves to, suppose from 100 to stock move to 97 or 96 or something like that, both the legs will lose money. This leg might go to, I'm just throwing up some numbers. So it will be like $500, it will be $100. And if you are still confident that the stock is going to go up, you can just buy back this sold call for $100. Okay, then you will be just left with the strike call of 95 strike. The total capital what you invested is 500 plus however much you paid to close this, bought back. So you bought back this, you need to pay some money. What I always do is, like, if my short call is so the maximum amount you are getting out of this transaction or out of this sold call is $250. If the value of that comes to $50 or $10 or $20, there is nothing much you are going to gain out of it. So I will close it back as long as my stance, my whatever I thought the stock is going to do didn't change. So suppose you place the trade, the stock is going to go up, and if you still think it is going to go up, then it's always better to buy back this short call. And if you think the trade is wrong and what you took a wrong direction, then you can close the entire spread as Suresh mentioned. But don't just leave this, is what Suresh is saying. Don't just close this and leave this. Anyway, going back, there are some takeaways on the vertical spreads. I see that the same thing can be done on puts also. So you think the stock is at $100 and you think the stock is going to go down, then you can play. Then you can just buy 107 put or even 100 put. But you don't want to pay $820 or you don't want to pay more, or then you can sell something out like 95. Yeah, it will go down, but it won't go down too much. Then you can try to place. So both say call spread and put spreads are same basically. It's on the different direction. So coming back to credit spread. So there are some takeaways in this. So the home run is when I said like there is a news on the stock and it bumped up too much. Oh, then you feel like, oh, I should have taken a straight call. And I mean, I feel like a lot of people come out and say, hey, I have a straight call, but it's fine. I mean, as long as you got what you intended for, that is good. And we can bring the break even lower because of the spreads. As I mentioned, the 95 call, if you just take the 95 call strike, the break even is at 102.5 here, the break even for just this call. But because we took the spread, the break even is at 100. So the stock, even if it doesn't move or move little bit, we are going to be still in profit. So Yeah, so as I mentioned, like if we have Amazon options or Tesla options, you don't have to think like if you have a conviction like the stock is going to up, you don't have money, you don't have to worry about it. You can just place $5 spread, $2 spread, even $1. I mean, I think yeah, $1 spread also you can play. Okay, as long as the percentage, as long as you look at the percentage of capital you invested and the profit, that is going to be profitable. Just that they might. So whenever some people say like I got $1,000, it doesn't matter how much they risk to get $1,000 versus how much your risk. So the percentage is always I check. If you kept $100 and gained 110, you sold it 110, your percentage is 10%. Somebody spent $10,000 and got like $11,000, it's still 10%. So they say like hey, I got $1,000. It doesn't matter. So anyway, and there is something called vertical debit spread, and there is something called credit spreads. Credit spreads will, if you think the stock won't. So suppose Apple moved like $15 up, or suppose it went up, and you think like okay, Apple is not going to move higher, and then there are a lot of people who are going to just naked calls. They just do the sell call or whatever it is, which is what we don't want to hear. So here what we do is like suppose the stock is going like this, and you can sell a call here and buy a call. This buy call is protection for this sell call. So when you do this, you get some credit. I'll show you an example. I think I have it somewhere. So you sold a call. Suppose the stock is at $100 and you think the stock is going to stay there or not going to go above 105. Then you sell call at 105 strike and you buy 110 strike. So the difference between those two strikes is like $5. You might get a credit of $1 or $2. So as long as the stock doesn't come here or close above this line, the first line, sell call line, you are going to keep money. You are going to keep the credit. So whenever we say credit spread, it means you are going to get a credit, but the difference between the width of the strikes and whatever you got credit, the difference is the maximum loss. So if there is a $5 wide credit call spread and you got $2 of credit, the maximum loss there is $300. A lot of people think like, I mean, why should we lose $300 for $200 credit? Because the probability is going to be, so I always, and Suresh or anybody in the group can correct me, I always feel like credit spreads or selling spreads has more probability of being in success than buying calls. Because if you take a stock, it can do three things. It can go up, it can go down, it can stay sidelines, right? So when we buy a call, out of these three possibilities, you need the one possibility to be true. I mean, there are two possibilities: staying there, the stock is going to stay there, or going down is going to keep you at loss, right? So credit spread means like either the stock stays there or going down is going to give you money. So 2 out of 3 possibilities, the probability of making is more. That's again, but still people look at that. Yeah, go ahead.
Boss, yesterday, classic example, on Thursday, I bought a credit spread. I got $50 credit and I had a spread of $10. And unfortunately for Facebook, it went down $20, right? So I lost the max of whatever, $970. So one of those unusual days where activities that can cause you to lose money.
Yeah. Remember,
the one time.
That's one example. Sorry, boss. I just want to add a couple of things here. Sure. See, the credit spreads are good in the bull market. Keep that in mind. The debit spreads. Debit spreads are less riskier. You say whatever the premium you pay is what you are losing, the max. But credit spreads, yes, there is a max losing, but chances are on a volatility market, you might lose more than what you gain. See that the ratio of losing versus gaining, you need to assess. Say, you know, an example for any stock, I'm doing a credit spread, $10 credit and $9 debit. Now, if somebody giving me 10 cents, the variation between that is 1:10. So my gain is 1%. I mean, like 10%, lose is 90%. So I'm making a deal for a profit of 10%. I'm risking 90%, which tradition. I mean, if you are doing a normal business and somebody comes and say, "Hey, you are less riskier, but you gain only 10%. I am more riskier. I gain, because I take more risk, so I get 90%. Will you trade that?" So the interesting topic here is that when you are taking the credit spread, check the variance. How much variance? Say if you were 45 to 55% of your spread, then I would say, it's a fair deal, because now I'm taking 45 cents and leaving 55 cents to the opponent to gain. So the most that I lose is that, the variance is very less compared to the, 90-10, like 55-45 is like a fair deal. I mean, yeah, I lose 50%, but I don't lose 90%. See that? So whenever you're doing those credit spreads in the bear market area, keep in mind it's very riskier. Now, if you look at the VIX, the VIX is so much higher. When the VIX is higher, means that the volatility is very high. When the volatility is very high, credit spreads are more riskier, because the chances of stocks going lower is higher than the stocks gaining. You do credit spreads when your VIX is so much low. That means it is in the bull market. The bull market is.
Yeah, Sampath, there are different. See, everybody looks at differently, right? When
everyone has a strategy. No, I agree.
Yeah,
everyone has a strategy.
I just want to add one point to that. When the IV is too good, too high, then the credit spreads are more beneficial. That's what I heard, and Suresh can correct it. Suresh, when the IV is too good, then credit spreads are going to be more. We get more premium. That's what I wanted to say. The probability and all, if we keep it aside, when the IV is low, then credit spreads are not advisable. When the IV is high, then that's when the credit spreads are more advisable. Am I saying it right, Suresh?
So, Bose, I personally, to be honest with you, I do not have an opinion one way or the other. I see them both exactly in the same way, and I'll tell you why. So let's say you buy a 35, in your example, what did you have, 95 and 105, right?
Yeah, we can pick anything in Apple also.
So the example you showed was 95 and 105, and stock was at 100. So your spread is $10. If you do a debit spread on the call side for some strikes, and do a credit spread on the put side, what you will find is, if debit spread for that is, let's say, $3, then the credit spread for the same thing would be very close to $7. It's not always exactly the same, because there are some differences, but to me, I actually see them totally interchangeably. So like the example, who was talking besides you, Bose? The gentleman.
Sampath.
Who?
Sampath.
So Sampath, you lost, you bought that credit spread, or you sold that credit spread for $1. And because Facebook moved $20, it came down. you lost, basically you
No,
lost
that
the
is not
entire.
Sampath, but Sampath was talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that is somebody else.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
Uttam.
lost, yeah. So Uttam, you lost the entire spread.
Yep.
Instead of doing this credit spread, had you done the debit spread on the other side, you would have noticed that it would have costed you about $9 of debit, very close to $9 of debit. So I truly do not know, there may be more to it that I'm not aware of, that, hey, in the high IV do this versus low IV do that. But I kind of personally see them at two sides of exactly the same coin.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
keep
got it.
in
So
one
what
thing in
you're
mind,
saying
guys.
is,
I mean, see,
yeah,
it is
Sampath, just keep it short. Yeah, go ahead and keep it short. Yeah, thanks.
okay. Pretty simple. On a bear market, you are taking a credit spread. That means you are taking high chances of risk. The risk is higher in the bear market. Credit spreads are very good in the bull market. That's all you need to know.
I mean, so we can take, if it is bear market, then you can take call spreads, right? So yeah, so call credit spreads in the sense. But anyway,
Yes.
so I'm just giving all possibilities, and yeah, we have to pick what it is right strategy for us and for our psychology kind of it. So anyway, I mean, if we think the market, if they think the stock is not going to go higher, suppose a stock rallied $10 and you see some technicals where you see like, okay, it is going to stay here for some time, it's going to stay sideways, or it's going to go down, then we can do sell credit call spread, which is going to be selling lower strike and buying higher strike. So as long as the stock stays below the sell call, we are going to keep the credit. If it goes above, then we are going to lose some money. So here, the only good thing here is, even if the stock stays sidelines, we are going to keep the money. Unlike debit spread, we need stock to move in our direction. Credit spreads, we don't need our stock to move in the same direction. It can stay sidelines and we still make money. So if you think the stock is not going to, suppose one stock fell down $10, $15 or $20, and you think the stock is not going to move down much lower, then instead of buying calls, you can, if the IV is too high, then if you buy a call, I mean, you might need to pay more premium. When the premium is high, we try to get that premium. That's my point. I mean, are we going to be right or wrong? That I don't know. But if the premiums are high, I don't want to pay that premium. If the premiums are high, I want to get the credit. Take that premium and play the contrary. Both are same. So if the stock is going down in this scenario, and then you think the stock is going to rally now, you are going to buy a call by paying premium. I'm going to buy a put credit spread by taking the premium. That's the only difference. So both our directions are same. If the stock stays here or goes up, I'm going to make money. If the stock, you will make money only if stock goes up. Okay, so it's just like I see it like 2x3, and I play very less credit spreads, to be frank. But I like the concept, as long as our strike and expiry and how we manage it are good. I mean, I always feel like I have good feeling that these will make more money, or more money than normal spreads. So anyway,
Given that,
so credit spread,
just to add, given that you have the margin to support it.
Margin, we don't need it when we take a spread, right?
No, credit spread, when you
money.
take, you will need to have that margin about the spread width.
Yeah. But again, I mean, that is why we are limiting it.
Yes.
Yeah, the width of the spread. So we are limiting it. Yeah, if we don't have this $500, I don't know about even for that 500, are they going to reduce it to 20% of the width?
No, they.
No, right?
I
Okay,
don't.
cool.
I am not sure, but generally it depends upon the stock also. If it is Apple, they might reduce it, but if it is stocks which are highly volatile, like Nikola and these guys, then it will be a full spread. Each stock will have its own margin requirement.
Yeah, right, Mani. So, and one more thing to just add what Sampath said, he is right. I mean, the amount we are getting like $20 and risking $980 is risky in markets where it moves drastically. I mean, either whichever market it is, if it moves left and up and down too aggressively, then those might be riskier too, right? But for example, thanks Mani for bringing in Nikola. So that stock is highly volatile. If you look at any strike, it is the IV is more than $100. Sorry, more than 100%. So 120, 130, 150. I see any strike anywhere at the money, I see it's more than 100, 150% of IV. At that time, why would I buy a call? I mean, yes, the profit potential is more. There are a lot of people who buy calls. I don't want to pay that much premium. Suresh, whenever you have some time, look at Nikola NKLA premiums on call side. Okay, so I don't want to pay too much premium to bet that the stock is going to go up. Instead, I will buy a put credit spread, and I limit my. See, I just sold 60, 65. I told this to Vamshi also. So 60 sell put, 55 buy put. I did that for $450, $420 of credit. Okay, so my maximum risk is $80. Okay, and the stock should stay above $65. People are betting that the stock is going to go to $100 or within 1 month, or within that news, wherever, I think 629 Monday or something, the news, there is some news pending. So instead of paying too high premium out of our pocket, I'm trying to see both of us. I mean, if he succeeds, I will also succeed. I mean, he in the sense whoever bought a call. I mean, I will also succeed, but instead I'm paying premium, I'm taking the premium. So that's all I'm trying to say. So for $5 wide put spread, if I'm getting $420, that shows how much, how much IV it is trading at. So at that time, I always try to take credit. That's my basic point. I don't do it regularly, but when the stock has high IV, I sell puts as long as I can manage the risk. The risk is here $80 and the maximum profit is $420 for a $5 wide thing. So if the stock really shoots up, then I'm going to keep $400 credit. And if it doesn't, I'm going to lose $80. And I'm happy. I don't need to even manage it. I'm okay with $80. For some, $80 is too much. For some, it is not. So I'm just giving an example. So put credit spreads we can do. So if the stock, so again, to summarize this, if the stock is, you can play as long as you know the direction, you can play differently. So credit put credit spread is bullish. If you are bullish or sideways, you do credit put spreads. And if you are bearish and sideways, and you can do credit call spreads. So this is the other way of vertical debit spreads. There are two types of spread, debits and credits. So that is one thing. And if you have any questions, I know we are running out of time. We can stop it or I can continue. It's up to whoever, you guys want. So I just want to cover one more, if you want to close it out. Diagonals, which I started using from last few months, and it worked out in most of the scenarios, if not all scenarios. Ranjit, is there any time check? I know we ran out of like 20 minutes.
No, boss. If people are not asking questions, I think we can conclude.
Okay, I just want to finish this diagonal spread, and then I think Sridhar is the one who hosted the call. Sridhar, are you okay for like next 5-10 minutes?
I mean, Sudhir, not Sridhar though.
Yeah, boss. This Sudhir. Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Sudhir. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Sorry. Yeah. So diagonal spreads are like so calendar spreads is like two same strike and two different expiries, right? Diagonal spreads are two different expiries and two different strikes. Suppose you guys think like Apple is going to go up. I mean, Friday made me I forgot all the stock prices because of Friday move. So I'm just giving, like, suppose Apple is at 350 and you think Apple is going to go to 375 in next 1 month, okay, or at least it will go up. You think like Apple is going to go up, it fell enough on Friday, if you guys think that. And also I play this strategy when earnings are there, and when stock falls for a reason which is not related to that particular stock. Suppose like Friday stock market, entire market fell down, right? It's not basically stock specific news. It is entire market downside, right? So at that time, if we have if you have a stock which is going to have any earnings in next 2 to 3 weeks or even little bit further out, then I try to take these diagonal spreads where I say like, okay, the stock fell $10 or $5 or some percentage without its problem. I mean, if there is a news on that particular stock, then I won't touch it. But anyway, so suppose Apple is at 350 and I think it is going to go to 375. This is also called poor man's covered call. Means like the name is little funny, but that means like I am bullish, but I don't have enough money to play it. So I want to take some credit. So how I'm going to take credit is, so here instead of 65 and 50, just assume this is Apple, and I am right now stock is at 350. What I can afford, suppose is like 360 call for August expiry. Suppose July is so close for me. So if we go to August expiry, 360 call is going to be like too much. Like it will be like above $1,000, as if I'm not wrong. So I don't want to pay that much. So what I do is like even for 360. So I want to go at the money. So what I will do is I will buy a call. I think this is a put example, but I will buy a call 355 call August expiry and some August 1st or July end, July 31st, sell call 370. I'm just I'm giving some example, okay? So this, what it will do is, what that one will do, my Tasty is not moving, otherwise I kept it open so I can show it visually. Tasty will give good look, like this area is profit area, this area is but I think it is pretty slow weekend maintenance or something. So anyway, that's why I'm just explaining here. So diagonal spreads is like I want to buy at the money call far out, which is like August expiry 350. If I am buying a call, it's going to be like $2,000 or something, which I can't afford, or I don't want to pay for a single trade. Then I will sell a shorter expiry, which is like July 31st expiry. The strike is going to be higher than my buy call strike, like 370, which is going to give me $200 or $300 or $400. I don't know it. So just to recap here, I mean, so October 65 call, and September actually call side it is going to be 70 call here. That means like I'm going to, so if Apple, if that sell call has to expire, it has to cross my buy call strike. I don't, let me see if I can show you. I don't know if you are guys able to understand that. So yeah, it's not moving. So anyway, so there are some earnings, suppose on July 31st. Okay, July 31st, I am going to buy a call at the money, and 2 weeks before that, which is July 2nd or something, I'm going to sell out of the money expiry. So that way, when the stock moves up even higher, I'm going to be in profit, and I'm going to reduce my cost basis, and the shorter time sell call will expire worthless. So I don't know. 1 second. So the shorter call, this is a put example I took it, so I don't know how to show that. But you guys are understanding, right? The diagonal calls means like longer call, longer expiry, lower strike, shorter expiry, higher strike selling. So that way we are going to reduce, and that is going to work in most scenarios as long as your direction is right. Even if your direction is wrong in any of these spreads, you are going to lose less money than compared to the straight calls or straight puts. That's my point. My point always going with spreads is like, if you are going to lose, I want to reduce my capital. Either it is profit. I know it's going to cap some profits, but losses I don't want to be too drastic. So this way, diagonal spreads, just try to search diagonal spreads or poor man's covered call in YouTube. It will give you more information, or you can ask me, you can ping me. I know we are running out of 30 minutes. We're already over 30 minutes. So I am trying to wrap it up. There are other spreads also, butterfly and iron condor and iron fly. Iron fly, in our group, there are some people who play. Pradeep, he plays iron fly. So basically, iron condor is, suppose you have at high level, you might know it, but I'm just going to touch it. If you think there is a stock which has earnings, and currently that stock is at $50, and the implied move for that stock for earnings is $10. So the stock can go down to 40 or up to 60. Okay, so then you can, as long as you think that stock is going to range bound within some upper limit and lower limit, you can take iron condor. So you can take iron condor, which is credit spreads on both sides. Taking a put credit spread and a call credit spread, joining two of them is going to give us iron condor. So as long as the stock stays between 40 and 60, you are going to keep the credit. So iron fly and iron condor are same, as long just that the strike, the middle strike is going to be the same strike. So I mean, we might need to have another session because I mean, I couldn't cover all of them, but at least I just wanted to, I covered all my PPTs. So there are different, so if you have less capital, there are different plays to play. I mean, still, as long as your direction is same, you can gain in. You don't need to spend too much money on a single trade betting on a single trade. So anyway, I mean, if you have any final questions, I may try to answer. Otherwise, I mean, I can keep explaining, but I think we are out of our time. So, any questions?
Thank you, boss. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, boss, for your
Thank you,
time
boss.
and sharing.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
boss.
it's a very nice session actually. So yeah.
Thank you, boss.
Hope it helps anybody. So,
Yeah, sure.
somebody.
Definitely.
Hey,
Thank you,
boss.
boss.
Boss, this is Suresh. Can I add 2 more comments?
Yeah, Suresh.
Okay. Hey, guys. So this is for those of you who are seeing it for the first time. All of this would look very attractive. It's mentally very stimulating also. You know, with small size accounts, you can make some really big size gains. But what I would strongly recommend you, when I learned it, nobody was there to tell me. I'm kind of telling that to you. I wish somebody had told me. This is all big time leverage game. So while there is potential for very good gains, there is also potential for very good losses. So even with spreads, let's say you do the spreads, but if your direction was incorrect or market changed upon you and you did not manage it very effectively and quickly, with options, it is very easy to kill your account very quickly. For those of you who are used to stock trading, even if the stock, let's say you buy something, it goes against you, you can sit on it. And after a year or after 6 months, there are good chances that you might be able to come out of it with a tiny or a big profit. With options, because of their time nature, that they expire at some point in time. When you lose it, almost all of it, and you lose it very quickly. So please, please, please keep the risk side also in your mind. Even with debit spread, your debit spread are safer, based on that Uttam's example. Santosh, एक minute. The problem with debit spreads also, let's say you did 10 of the debit spreads and you were wrong in all of those directions. Now let's say your account size was $10,000. You did $1,000, 10 debit spreads on 10 different accounts. Market turned around, you were wrong on all of those. Even if you got out, maybe you can get out at half the price. So your $10,000 account can very quickly turn into a $5,000 account. And if you're like,
Suresh,
yeah.
By no means I asked anybody to start options. My intention was instead of buying naked calls, but play spreads until you get more comfortable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's all my point is. So I normally not asking anybody to start trading options. Anybody who is already trading options, it's better, it's even safer to use spreads until you get more comfortable is what I wanted to.
And Bose, I
That's my point.
totally agree with you. And thanks for reiterating it. And this wasn't about it's knowledge. I'm just giving another side of it because I've been burned very nicely. So I want to give that other side also, which you don't have to make your own mistakes to learn from. Smart people are those who learn from other people's mistakes, right? So I'm telling you, this is your opportunity to be smart. Don't be a dumbo like me. Okay. That's all what I'm sharing with you. That's all. And your point is valid. So always what I would request with options is form a habit of thinking, okay, this is my potential profit. So actionable item that I'm giving you. Also make a note of, this is my potential loss.
Yes.
Then and only then take that trade.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable with potential loss, do not do it. Doesn't matter whether it's credit spread, debit spread, Goda spread, Gada spread, Iron Kandor, Ye Kandor, Wo. All of those are very exciting. And for those of you who are engineers in science background, you would have multiple orgasms over this. I'm telling you, it is so stimulating that you would love it. It's almost like a high, But always remember, also note down, Tasty Trade shows you potential profit, POP and all that. They also show you potential loss. Most of us don't or pay attention to that, or we choose to ignore it. That's all what I'm requesting. Don't ignore it.
Thank you, Suresh.
Yes.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Suresh.
Boss, great job, by the way. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.